Good afternoon. I'm Cheryl Johnson. I'm the Director of Parent, Community, and School Engagement for Greenville County Schools, Special Education Services. And my colleague that's joining me today, that needs to come over here by the camera, is?
And I'm Melanie DeWitt, and I'm the Director for Psychological Services. And I just wanted to say this is just a real treat for Cheryl and I to come. We work like hand in glove. I mean, Cheryl works directly with parent engagement and the communities. But before that, I mean, Cheryl and I go way back. She was working directly with schools in terms of instruction and working with coordinators and teachers with providing special ed instruction for children. So when Cheryl said, Melanie, could you come with me? And I said, oh yeah, that's great. She did not tell me about this camera until yesterday. So I didn't have time to plan a wardrobe, so I'm going to look okay. But when we were thinking about that, Cheryl says, it's just going to be 20 minutes, and we're just supposed to give an overview of special ed. And I said, and let me make sure I got this right. 20 minutes, an overview of Greenville County special ed. So to me, that's a little bit like saying, tell me what's in your set of encyclopedias. You've got 20 minutes, go. So when Cheryl and I were talking, we thought, how can we take a really overwhelming topic, dense in information, dense in compliance, dense in regulations and laws, and leave you with just what is special ed in Greenville County. And what we thought is we would use two different strategies. One is just to tell you, if you can only remember 3 things about special ed, these are the 3 things we want you to remember. Number 1, it's for children that have unique needs. It's for kids that have been identified with disabilities and the need for specialized instruction. And those kids don't fall in to just this round hole. They go from kids that are mildly disabled, and on mildest might be a young child with an articulation problem, problems with art, and we might see them for 6 months, a year until we get that resolved. And that's a speech and language child. And then we have students that we identify as early as age 3 with severe disabilities, and they're often with us through age 21 in a separate school. So these children are unique. Each one of them is very different. The other thing that we want to leave with you is that not only do their disabilities range from mild to severe, the amount of time we provide them with specialized instruction varies. It can be as minimal as a teacher just consulting with another teacher and maybe doing some push-in of specialized instruction, to something where it's a separate class, to something where it's a separate building, and we have that in 2 facilities. So the range is from mild to severe as well, from a lot of support to very little support. And the third thing we want you to know about special ed is it's all about, what you were sharing, collaboration. That the key person involved in any decision making about special ed is the parent. And the parent is involved in all of these meetings. And it's always multiple people involved because these children are complex and we need to look at them from a lot of different perspectives. So, children are unique. We offer a variety of services for those kids, and parents are at the core of how we're helping these kids. So, Cheryl is going to then go on with our first slide. Okay, but while she's doing that, our second strategy is this. Just in case your mind could wander, we have a true-false quiz, and you can pretty much get 100% if you follow along with us.
Of course, the school district is going to bring a test for.
Of course, of course.
Here, I can hand it up for you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay.
All right, so what is special education? Special education is a service. It's not a place that you send children, it is a service. And it's specially designed instruction to support the needs of our unique children that Melanie just described. The other part of special education is that there's no cost to the parent. You'll hear the word faith. because special education is under laws required to be free, appropriate for the child, and public education. So it's at no cost. So why do we have special education? Decades and decades and eons ago, our children with special needs often weren't even allowed to attend school. So there were some laws enacted beginning in 75 was the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and it guarantees that free appropriate public education. It guarantees that we're providing a program that's suitable for the needs of that child in the least restrictive environment. And then the Americans with Disabilities Act is an Equal Opportunity or Civil Rights Act.
All right, just so everybody's clear, special ed is knee-deep with regulations. And one of our key mandates is the mandate of child fine. And child fine is just the legislation that just says we have an obligation to fine children with disabilities or to fine young adults with disabilities and to help educate them. So child fine is just a big umbrella term for trying to find and identify those kids that are disabled. We run a clinic 5 days a week over at Greenville Child Development Center where we're screening kids that families suspect may have a disability, and that's our children ages 3 to 5. At the school age, in our public schools, we run child fine through something that's called an assistance team. And those students are frequently referred by either their teacher or a parent. And we also put a lot of interventions in to try and support those kids prior to being identified. So child fine is that federal mandate that says, go find those kids and identify them and educate them appropriately. And key here is that we are providing this instruction, child fine mandate for ages 3 through 21. Greenville County Schools, I just love this slide because I started working for Greenville County Schools in 1997, and I remember the enrollment was like 49,000. So, now we're at 76,000 students. So we have a lot of students. One of the beauties of having so many students is that we have a lot of resources and we have lots of programs for those young people. And this just kind of gives you an idea of how gigantic we are. In terms of elementary schools, we have 51 elementary schools, 19 middle schools, and 14 high schools. So there are lots and lots of locations of these kids. And then in terms of when we say that a child has a disability, many of you all are from more a medical model, and you're looking at the DSM-5, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of diagnoses. But for special education, we're under federal guidelines, so there are only 13 different categories here, all right? So kind of looking at those disability categories, be thinking about which one do you think the most number of kids are in. Let's see.
It's on your quiz.
Yes, okay, next slide. And you will see that the greatest number of students identified as disabled in our county is specific learning disability. And second to that is speech and language disability. And our pie here is pretty consistent with what the national distribution is with disabilities, okay? And what's exciting to know is most of the children that are speech and language and specific learning disability, I was talking about from mild to severe, those are the mildest categories normally. Okay. I am a school psychologist, so I have to say something about evaluation and testing. The key thing that I'd like for you to remember about evaluation is that it is a process, right? The idea of a young person being in an office with a speech therapist, occupational therapist, school psychologist, and that one-on-one testing is just a piece of it. Critical to how we evaluate kids for special ed is looking at the history of that child through the review of educational and medical records, interviewing with the stakeholders with that child, or the parents and the teacher, and then observing that child and seeing those interventions. That testing is just a small piece of that whole big process of evaluation.
So, Melanie just addressed evaluation. So how is a child eligible for special education services? Because again, in order to be eligible, they have to have two prongs. Their disability has to negatively impact them in an educational setting. So that's just one piece of it. But their disability also requires that they need or require support through specialized instruction. So we have a number of children that might be identified as disabled, but it doesn't automatically make them eligible to receive special education services because their disability may not impact them educationally and they would not require specialized supports.
And probably the best example that we like to give of that is many of us know children and adults with ADHD. And many of those folks function well because they have a steady diet, they exercise, they've got a good routine going on, they may or may not take medication. That's a child that has an impairment, ADHD, but they don't need specialized instruction. So not every child that has been identified with an impairment necessarily needs that specialized instruction.
We're mandated by federal law, again, lots of regulations, to provide a parent handbook of special education. It is the full procedural safeguards informing our parents of all their rights under IDEA. So it explains the safeguards, it provides some parent resources. Family Connection is now one of the resources that is available to our parents. The handbook is required by law to be provided at least annually. Some of our parents say that they could do their wallpaper with all of the handbooks that they have. It also includes, these are just some of the things, there are a number of things in the procedural safeguard, but it explains the right to convene an IEP meeting at any time. It also addresses the two requirements for consent, and that's the consent to evaluate and the consent for the initial provision of services. And then that little tricky thing, prior written notice, which confuses so many people, because when you think of the word prior, you think it's before something, but a prior written notice is a document that's provided after an IEP meeting that explains what was discussed, what the plan is prior to the implementation of the plan. And it's a regulatory word, or we would change it. So, in special education, there's so many meetings, but the special education purpose of that meeting is to discuss the plan for that child. IEP meetings can be convened at any time, at the request of the parent, at the request of the school, to talk about if additional supports are needed, or additional assessments needed, just the overwhelming progress of that child. So what is this thing called an IEP? Individualized Education Program. It's a legal document, mandated again by federal law. It's developed at an IEP meeting by an IEP team with the parent as an equal, full participant in that meeting. Anything that is discussed has to be considered at that meeting. But the purpose is to develop supports and services for the child that requires specialized instruction, the child that has met eligibility under those two prongs, under the 13 areas of disability defined by the state of South Carolina, to develop that plan. It has the essential components of what that child's program will look like and the services and supports that that child needs. It describes their strengths and needs as a learner and what specialized instruction is needed, the goals that are going to help that child reach those deficits in their skill sets. And it's mandated to be reviewed at least annually. So the IEP document is a 364-day document, but it can be amended throughout the year.
So, have any of you all attended an IEP meeting? All right, lots of you all have. Okay, an IEP meeting is a formal gathering, all right? It needs to definitely have, the parent is always invited, the child's general ed teacher is invited, a special educator is invited, and then we have what they fondly refer to as the LEA. And that is somebody who can represent the district, and if there are additional allocations of funds that need to be done, like we might need to get a child an extra set of books, or look at providing the child with a weighted vest, something that could entail money, that person would be able to say, yes, we're authorized to do that. The key that we see here is that this is a round table, and that everybody should be equally, has an equal part in the meeting and feels like their voice is heard. Unfortunately, sometimes, because so much of what we do is regulatory, sometimes I think folks get overwhelmed with the details and not the big picture, which is how we look at actually addressing that student's educational program. But at these meetings, we have to have a minimum of 4 people there, and those are mandated members of the IEP team. Oftentimes, the school psychologist will be there, sometimes somebody from special ed at a district level will be there. There's sometimes other invited guests, SLPs, OTs, but you have to have these folks.
And the parent is welcome to bring someone with them. Actually, in our Parent Academy, we encourage parents to have someone with them, because as a parent, it's an emotional process, because you're talking about your child, and you have all these people gathered to talk about your child. So we do encourage parents to bring someone with them as another set of listening ears, as someone to remind them, remember you wanted to ask about such and such. So the parent is always welcome to bring someone with them.
And Cheryl, had you shared with the group earlier about the Parent Academy?
I had not.
Okay, so one of the things that we're trying to do with children that are newly identified as being disabled is Greenville County Schools is offering what we call a welcome workshop. It's the second Tuesday of every month from 8:30 to 10 at MTA, and that is just to provide parents with information about what special ed is, what is their part there, what can they do to support their child. And we started that in the fall. So if any of your families have questions, even if they've had a child in special ed for many, many years, please encourage them. It's the welcome workshop.
I'm sorry, what's that time again?
It's Tuesdays, second Tuesday of the month, 8:30 to 10. Yeah. But we'd love for, and if any of y'all would just like to come and hear that information. But we believe that a parent that's informed is the best advocate for their child. Very best one. Least restrictive environment, LRE. And so I hope you're getting the feel here. I mean, if you can't put 3 letters with it, we just don't want it. Just don't want it, okay. But at least restrictive environment, the whole thrust of special ed is that we want to enable children to lead successful adult lives, independent. So we always want to keep them, as much as we can, getting core instruction in general education. So when we're talking about the least restrictive environment, what it's really trying to say is, as much as we can, always think about keeping that child in gen ed with other students that are non-disabled. That's always our goal. For many of our students, like we're talking about this little guy that has problems with their R, the least restrictive environment is they're in their class all day and maybe twice a week they're being pulled out. But then we have kids with very, very complicated diagnoses, very complicated maybe emotional problems, and the least restrictive, the least restrictive for them is a separate place because of whatever's going on with them. So least restrictive environment is child by child, but our goal is always get them to the maximum amount possible with typical peers.
So specialized instruction. We mentioned earlier that in order to be eligible to receive special education services, the child must require specialized instruction. Again, it's a mandate by IDEA. With specialized instruction, it's student-centered. It's child by child, and it's based on the individual needs of that child. Because again, that team is going to look at the strengths and the needs of that child as a learner, and then develop a plan to meet those needs. The curriculum might be adjusted in some form or fashion. For example, accommodations. It could be that that child is going to need an extended time to do some things. Might need a word bank in order to accomplish some things in terms of language arts. But it's individualized based on that child's needs. For some students, we even have to go beyond that accommodation to some modifications. And a modification would be where the child is not expected to have to master as much as a non-disabled peer. And it could be that key concepts are focused on rather than having to master 25 concepts in terms of social studies. That might be just the primary ones that are going to make the most impact. So it could be changes in the content, the methodology, the way the information is provided, and the delivery of instruction. But the whole key of the specialized instruction is that it ensures that that child has access to general education curriculum. No matter if they're the most mild to severe child, that is still the key focus, that it's individualized, but still based on providing them access to the general education curriculum. So what we've provided here, and I'm so sorry it's so small on your handouts, we've given you the administrative context for special education services. That's the first half of the list. We said we have 11,000 children with disabilities. We have 800 staff members that support our students with disabilities in the school setting, so our administrative team is also quite large. So that's the first half of the list. There's the second half of the list. This information is also on our website, on the district website. On the special education department page, it'll give you who to call. It gives you that information. We don't have the instruction support specialist here, but every one of our schools has an instruction support specialist. It used to be called special education coordinator. That is the person that are foot soldiers. They're out in the schools supporting teachers, supporting those classrooms, guiding instruction in those classrooms, modeling instruction, providing whatever supports that that teacher needs in order to best meet the needs of the children that she provides instruction to. Melanie's going to go over the quiz and then we'll take some questions.
Okay, all right. Special ed services are provided to students on a sliding payment scale. Special ed services are mandated by law. The child find process is limited to children ages 3 to 5. In Greenville County Schools, the disability categories with the largest number of students is specific learning. Yes, that's right. True. An evaluation is a comprehensive process involving records review, interviews, observations, and testing. Very good. Every child with a disability is eligible for special ed. Okay. An IEP is a legal document. Perfect. Participants in an IEP meeting may only include the teacher and parent. Okay. LRA is an acronym for legally restricted education. We like that one too. IDEA ensures the child access to general ed. True. Good. Oh, thumbs up. Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
On your IEP stuff, are y'all, I feel like recently you've partnered with Able some, and I feel like, is there a move for students, to get students more involved in their IEP conversations, especially as they get older? I feel like some work's being done to kind of empower them to get more involved.
That's another one of our mandates. Beginning at age 13, the law requires that that child is invited to their IEP meeting. However, we are truly trying to encourage, beginning even at the elementary level, we haven't really encouraged our preschoolers to be there, but at the elementary level, they should participate in that IEP meeting, if nothing more than to come in, introduce the parent, say who the teacher is, and something they like about school. Because one of the things, in some of my research, I was reading about students that had long ago exited special education services, but yet they weren't involved in the IEP process, and they always felt a little intimidated about that IEP meeting. What are they talking about? Are they saying bad things about me? So the earlier we can get our children involved in an IEP process, they'll know that it's something that's going to benefit them. They have input, especially beginning at middle school, because I mentioned accommodations. Our middle schoolers should be able to say, you know, that's really not going to work for me. I would rather have this kind of support. So it's so important for our children to participate. So yes, mandated at 13, but encouraged prior to 13.
And again, it's an individual education program. It's student-centered. The best way to keep a meeting student-centered is to have the student participating, you know. And so we're really, just like you shared, there's just a real push to begin to get students at a young age being a part of this, you know. That's a great question.
Other questions for these guys?
Thank you so much for your time. We will have to say we're going to dash, and I'm so sorry we won't be here for your presentation. But this afternoon, we are having a community resource fair for our district staff, our teachers, our counselors, our administrators, and we need to go get ready. Some of you will be there with us presenting information to our district staff, so hate to leave, but we do need to dash.
Thank you.